ancestral culture, chosen by gods to harbor one of the greatest civilizations in the history of mankind, will come back to life. Your next vacation. Enjoy the highest level of comfort. The most exquisite cuisine. The most comfortable transportation. Breathtaking landscape filled with magic and fantasy. And the entertainment you can only find here. Empire of Hidden Treasures. Don't watch the movie. Live it for real. Visit Peru.
Unida la costa, unida la costa, unida la sierra, unida la selva contigo, Perú. Unido el trabajo, unido el deporte, unidos el norte, el centro y el sur. A triunfar, peruanos, que somos hermanos, que se haga victoria nuestra gratitud. Te daré la vida y cuando yo muera, me uniré en la tierra contigo, Perú. Te daré la vida y cuando yo muera, me uniré en la tierra contigo, Perú.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to each Rotarian around the world, and welcome to the fourth day of our project fair. Buenos días, buenas tardes y buenas noches a todos los rotarios alrededor del mundo y bienvenidos al cuarto día de nuestra feria de proyectos. We want to remind you that our fair will be held for September 18 to 24 between 12:30 and 2 p.m. Each day of the fair is dedicated to one of areas focus. The projects we will present on the day that corresponds to each area's focus, and we will also have the possibility of virtual tourism in some of the regions of our District 4455. Queremos hacer recuerdo que nuestra feria se realizará del 18 al 24 de septiembre entre las 12:30 y 2 de la tarde. Cada día de la feria está dedicada a un área de interés. Los proyectos serán presentados en el día que corresponda también a su área de interés. y tendremos la posibilidad de hacer turismo virtual en algunas de las regiones de nuestro distrito 4455. The fair will be in English, and if you want to English-Spanish interpretation service, you can press the button found in the bar of your Zoom screen. La feria será en inglés y en caso que desean el servicio de traducción inglés-español, podrán dar clic al botón que se encuentra en la barra inferior de su pantalla de Zoom. Inka region lies within a wide expanse of high plains that border the Andes foothills to the east. A town, originally called Valverde, established nearby in 1563, was moved to the present site of Ica after being destroyed by an earthquake in 1569. It was officially renamed San Jerónimo de Ica in 1640. The region has long been known for the cultivation and processing of cotton and grapes, and the National Reserve Paracas and the Nazca lines. La región de Ica se encuentra dentro de una amplia extensión de llanuras altas que bordean las estribaciones andinas hacia el este. Una ciudad originalmente llamada Valverde, establecida cerca de 1563, fue trasladada al sitio actual de Ica después de ser destruida por un terremoto en 1569. Fue rebautizada oficialmente como San Jerónimo de Ica en 1640. La región ha sido conocida durante mucho tiempo por el cultivo y procesamiento de algodón y de uva, y para la Reserva Nacional Paracas y las líneas de Nazca. Every year, on September 21st, the International Day of Peace is dedicated around the world. The UN General Assembly has declared this date as the day dedicated to strengthening the ideas of peace through the observance of 24 hours of no violence and ceasefire. The 21st theme for the International Day of Peace is Reclaiming Better for a Equitable and Sustainable World. Celebrate peace. Oppose acts of hate online and offline. Spread comprehension, kindness, and hope to the face of the pandemic so we can all recover better. Cada año, el 21 de septiembre, se celebra el Día Internacional de la Paz en todo el mundo. La Asamblea General de la ONU ha declarado esta fecha como el día dedicado al fortalecimiento de las ideas de paz, a través de la observación de 24 horas de no violencia y alto al fuego. El tema del 2021 para el Día Internacional de la Paz es recuperarse mejor para un mundo equitativo y sostenible. Celebra la paz. Oponte a los actos de odio tanto en Internet como fuera de él. Difunde comprensión, bondad y esperanza frente a la pandemia para que todos nos recuperemos mejor. This day is dedicated for the area's focus of peace building and conflict prevention, and it is a pleasure to introduce to Rebecca Kroll, manager of this area's focus. Este día está dedicado al área de interés de paz y prevención de conflictos, y es un placer presentarles a su gerente, Rebecca Kroll.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Kroll, and I'm the Area Focus Manager for Peace Building and Conflict Prevention here at Rotary. And I'm thrilled to be with you today to talk more about this area, our goals, and what we are hoping to achieve as an organization with our work. So it often feels like we are living in tumultuous times. And as I talk to Rotarians around the world, there's certainly one aspect that we all agree on, that there is no better organization to be working on the complex issues of peace building and conflict prevention in our day. But that can mean a lot of different things to different people. So what are the goals that Rotary has in peace building and conflict prevention? First off, we are trying to enhance the capacity of individuals and communities to self-address their needs of conflict, violence, and peace locally. We are training community members in peace education, peace leadership, and redefining what it means to be a citizen peace builder. We are providing services that help integrate conflict-affected vulnerable populations into society. We're improving dialogue and community relations from the very local level to local government and even international relations. So while Rotary builds peace in so many different ways, through our clubs and our districts, through our work lives, in our churches, in our community groups, I'm going to be talking to you more today about the work that we do through our global grants. And I always feel like it's a helpful reminder to all Rotarians that this type of community-based peace work was not common in our matching grant system. We've always provided scholarships through our Rotary Peace Centers and now through our global grant scholarships, but our community-based on-the-ground peace work is relatively new. Not that Rotary is new to peace, because it's part of our DNA. It's been something that we've been doing since the beginning, but doing it through our global grants is has been a new phenomenon since 2014. So you'll see in this breakdown of our grants to date, the vast majority, 65%, are still within graduate scholarships. However, you'll see other pieces of our portfolio growing, such as youth programming, direct services for conflict-affected vulnerable populations, capacity building, peace education, refugee support, and also school-based programming. You'll see here that the vast majority of the funding is going to the Americas and Europe, and this often feels like a funny slide, but that's because that's where the scholarship funding is actually being spent. In terms of non-scholarship activities, where we're actually seeing the most investment is in Latin America. So I'll get back to some examples of what we do through our global grants, the importance of it and how you can get involved. But I did want to touch on the work that we are doing with our strategic partnership, the Institute for Economics and Peace. This partnership has been instrumental in how Rotary members and Rotary as an organization has really begun to understand our own value that we bring to our communities in peace building, and have really helped provide a framework for which we do this work. So the Institute for Economics and Peace is a research organization based out of Sydney, Australia, but it has offices in New York, Mexico City, Brussels, and Harare, Zimbabwe. And what we are trying to do through the strategic partnership is take the research, the indices, and all the information and data that the Institute is collecting and marrying it or bridging it with Rotary's grassroots work in communities around the globe. While the Institute is not the only organization that has put data and empirical research behind peacebuilding work, it is one of the best known and one of the most reputable. And for Rotary, it's always important that we're working off data for the most impactful interventions that we can do within this area. So, what have we learned and how do we work towards peace? Not only with our strategic partnership, but now really through so many of the interventions that we are engaged in. So here you'll see two terms that I often refer to when I talk about how to approach peace building work, that there's really two types of peace. First, there is this idea of a negative peace, which is the absence of violence, the absence of conflict or violent conflict, or the fear of violent conflict. Now, negative peace might be a security solution or having an agreement in place that temporarily stops violence or acts of violence from being committed. The problem with negative peace is that once that intervention is taken away, often the violence will come back relatively quickly. I often use my hometown of Chicago, Illinois as an example. In some of our more violent neighborhoods, you can see the violence go down if you put a lot of police on the street. But as soon as you take the police away, the root causes of that violence has not been addressed. So, of course, the violence will return. That leads us into the other definition of how we can think about peace, which is positive peace, a much broader, cross-cutting, and holistic way of thinking about peace. It is the attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. The Institute created this framework, which I'll talk about in a moment, by studying the countries that consistently ranked the most peaceful in their indices and in their reports. So instead of studying the countries that were most violent and trying to figure out what was wrong, they started to study the countries that were most peaceful to find out what was right. And what they developed was the system or framework of positive peace. Now, positive peace is not a term that the Institute created. It's an idea that was created by Johan Galtung, a sociologist from Norway. But this framework is unique that it helps create a system in which we can think about not only our peace building initiatives, but also any initiative that we engage in through our service, global grants, or other ways. And the importance of this graphic is to think about all of these different pillars as a system. So in order to create a peace that is sustainable and long lasting, when you create an intervention, you need to think about how is the government working? How are resources distributed? How is information flowing? How are the relationships with the neighbors? Do we have high levels of human capital, acceptance of the rights of others, low levels of corruption, and sound business environment? When all of these 8 factors are present, both within a country or within a project that you are creating, the likelihood of good outcomes and a sustained sense of peace and satisfaction greatly increases. Now, when we were looking at this framework, we realized how connected this framework is to Rotary's areas of focus. When we go into a community, we look at the health of the community. Do they have access to clean water? Are they working to provide a clean environment? Do they have high levels of human capital and a strong economy? Are their literacy rates high? Are their maternal and child health services sufficient? And if you look at those areas and you can say yes, the likelihood that you have strong levels of peacefulness is greater. So the work that we do at the Institute is really marrying the work that we do in the areas of focus with our pillars of positive peace. And why can this system be transformative? Because if you look at communities or countries with high levels of positive peace, you also see a number of other positive indicators. They have higher per capita income, they're more resilient, they have better environmental outcomes, and they have higher GDP growth per year, which also correlates with higher levels of reading water, better medical systems, higher school enrollment rates, and more job opportunities. So through our partnership, we have three main goals of what we're trying to do. First, we're trying to communicate to Rotary members and the Rotary family that peace building is not just something you do one time and you're done. That peace building is really a process and a system versus a product or result. So when you think about building a project, you really want to think about the process that goes into building that project and the system that you are trying to have an impact on. For example, if you're working with a community, you might think about different platforms where people can come together to work through community dynamics, and they can do that on an ongoing basis, even once the project is over. We are also trying to build capacity within our membership about how we think about peace. So moving away from this idea of just reducing violence or negative peace to this more holistic framework of peace and development. And of course, we're providing educational resources to move those initiatives forward. So when we focus on positive peace, it is a transformational idea because throughout the history of the peace building sector, we saw a real focus on the negative, on the violence, but this focuses on the positive aspects that create the conditions for a society to flourish and live peacefully over the long term. It allows us to see projects as systems so we can stop reacting and we can start building something different. So the idea is to stop reacting to everything we see that needs to be fixed and going down and trying to understand what system is creating all of these things to happen. Positive peace is also a cross-cutting facilitator of progress overall. So it makes it easier for businesses to sell, entrepreneurs and scientists to innovate, individuals to produce, and governments to effectively regulate. So another way to say this is that you are creating a virtuous cycle. Positive peace is also a measure of social resilience. And certainly in this day and age, living through destabilization of countries and democracy, a global pandemic, social resilience, and of course, environmental degradation, social resilience is more important than ever. And before I move back to our project examples, I did want to talk about this phenomenon of clocks in clouds. So when we engage in projects, and why many projects tend to fail, is when we apply clock-like fixes to cloud-like problems. So a clock is something that we can understand relatively easily. If we were to take a clock and it broke and we took it apart, if we knew enough, we would understand what the problem is and we could put it back together exactly how we took it apart. On the other hand, a cloud is part of the environment in the sky. It has rain coming down, it's moving, it has wind, it has all of these different aspects that are shaping it as it moves. So it's a lot harder to take a cloud apart and then put it back together just as we found it. It also just evaporates when we put our hand through. So this idea is that we have to think about, especially related to peace building, but also in other projects, that we are working in a dynamic, ever-changing system. And we have to think about how our interventions can react to those changing dynamics. So that's why thinking about your projects addressing the systems is better than just simply the problem, especially as it relates to peace and conflict prevention. So I'd like to highlight 3 different projects that we feel really encompass both the strength of Rotarians and the opportunity that we have to start to build peace in our communities. And the first one is directly related to the IEP partnership that I was just explaining. So during our pilot phase, which ended in 2019, we developed 2 large-scale workshops in Mexico and Colombia. And the main goal of these projects were to establish networks of local positive peace champions that work together to bring systemic change to their communities. In Mexico, we brought over 100 participants from 7 different Mexico states to work together to identify what areas of the positive peace framework they needed to work on in their jobs, with their local government, with their communities, and created the connections between the participants, the Rotarians in their communities, and also the key representatives that they could work with. In Colombia, we had 5 different smaller trainings that address some of the unique historic conflict that Colombia has faced, including the peace accord that was signed in 2016. And again, creating these groups of peace builders, young peace builders that took the positive peace framework to start creating change. I'm happy to say that in both Mexico and now in Colombia, we've had additional workshops, and we have a strong and growing cohort of positive peace practitioners working within Rotary to create this change, both within the region and also internationally. Another training program is with one of our service partners, Mediators Beyond Borders, which trained women in both Latin America and Indonesia how to thrive and become stronger leaders for peace building. So the training really aimed to increase the capacity of these women working for non-governmental organizations in mediation and negotiation, and then again, developing this network of women peace leaders that were connected throughout both the Latin America region and the Southeast Asian region. And finally, a youth program that was incredibly successful and continues to this day is called Peace in Chicago Schools. And this project was put together between a Rotary Club in Chicago, Illinois, and 2 middle schools on the west and south side of Chicago that worked together to develop an integrated approach to helping Chicago youth both understand the internal process of nonviolence and then how that is expressed outwardly in dealing and addressing conflict situations, both in their own lives, at school, in their homes, and then also in their communities. So don't have the opportunity to take questions, but I thank you so much for this opportunity. And I hope you have a great project fair.
Now, we will introduce Bill Whitney for the Outreach Emergency Service Program. Es un placer presentar a Bill Whitney del Programa de Servicio de Emergencia Extrema.
I'd like to thank you very much for allowing us to present to you today and tell you about Outreach Emergency Services Program. OESP was founded back in 2001 with the idea of providing emergency medical services training to the citizens of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Soon after that, it grew into encompassing fire and rescue training for the firefighters of Cambodia. One of the interesting things that was noted in our first 3 or 4 years in Phnom Penh was that the fire loss damage was reduced by almost 75% just by the way of the training that was provided. From there, we grew from Cambodia into the country of Colombia to the cities of Popayan and Hamondi. And again, the classes started very small in Colombia, and they continued to grow over the next few years to where they were a maximum size of 350 participants. We've been fortunate enough to have participants from the countries listed on the slide that you're looking at right now. Those may vary between 2 to 200 participants per country. None of this would be possible without a fantastic and phenomenal group of instructors that come from 3 different countries. Our instructors have come from cities across the United States such as Seattle, Oshkosh, Denver, Houston, Washington, D.C. And we've been have some great instructors also from the London Fire Brigade, as well as Sydney and Melbourne, Australia. Each of our instructors are professionals in either firefighting, rescue, or as medical workers. All of them volunteer their time, all of them volunteer their expertise, and when they bring that to your country, they bring along an unbelievable passion for the job that they do. Our job is to take that passion and turn it into desire within your firefighters and your medical workers to pass along the craft, as we would call it. But each instructor has their own area of expertise that they're extremely good at, that they're professionals at, that they have studied and worked at the craft for many, many years. We take that passion and that expertise and we turn those into various courses like you see on the screen now. These are the commonly requested medical courses, but it's certainly not the end or limitation to what our expertise lies in. And some examples that courses for the firefighters that they would go through, some of these are extremely intense, such as live fire training or multi-company operations. OESP is one of the very few organizations in the world that we know of that will bring live fire training to your country. That is, we take buildings that we're allowed to burn, and we take your firefighters and train them on intense firefighting from both the exterior and the interior of the building. We'll talk to them about the latest in strategy and the latest in tactics to help them become better incident commanders to control those incidents that you may experience in your cities and towns. And each one of these courses that we're referring to, we help your firefighters and rescuers work together as a giant team. Teamwork is key to success. We like to transform the classroom into real life scenarios. We do that by example in the medical field of making up our patients so they look like they're bleeding, like they look like they've been burned, so that the student is seeing what they think is real. The closer that we can train them to what they will see on a regular basis, the easier it will be for them to perform and save lives more easily in your cities. We believe in what we call hands-on training. In other words, we don't want them to sit in a classroom while we talk about it. We want to take them outside and actually put those skills to work. Repetition is the key. We have to practice it over and over again, but it's under the watchful eye of our experts as we help your firefighters and medical personnel become better than they are today, which I'm sure they're great. Our job is to help them become better. Our job is to help to instill passion within them. We're going to turn our classroom into your city and make it a better place.
We are in the most important part of the fair, the presentation of the projects. Remember that all the projects presented at the fair can be found in the Inka Project Fair website, www.rotaryinkaprojectfair.org. The first project we will present is from Rotary Club Breña, named Heavy Rescue Unit Project Firefighters. Estamos en la parte más importante de la feria, la presentación de los proyectos. Recuerden que todos los proyectos presentados en la feria pueden ser encontrados en la página web de Inka Project Fair, www.rotaryinkaprojectfair.org. El primer proyecto que les presentaremos es de Rotary Club Breña, llamado Proyecto Unidad de Rescate Pesado Bomberos.
We are Rotary Club Breña in Lima, Peru. Each day, a firefighter gives up a new story to tell. My grandmother, an 83-year-old woman, had cerebral stroke. The doctor said she did not become too old to have a normal life, but she did. One day at home, she started to have another serious stroke. My aunt called the firefighters. She lived on 5th floor, and with all the love these red men took my grandmother to the hospital. She lived due to them. Rotary Club Breña gives support to the International Firefighter Company number 14. This firefighter company will celebrate 128 years of uninterrupted work with a unit vehicle called Rescue. But this is 33 years old, providing services to the community. The men in red, as is known here in Peru, are those who work voluntarily without asking for anything in return, the same ones who risk their life day by day, attending to the different emergencies that arise. What do they need? A new unit rescue. Why? Because having the unit will strengthen the technical, logistic, and operational capacity in an optimal way, a suitable and well-timed emergency services, especially in fire rescue, and improve and renovate this all rescue unit from this International Volunteer Firefighters Company number 14. The first impact will be to protect our firefighters are obviously to improve the conditions in which the fire company provides services like medical emergency, fire control, rescue control, and hazardous materials spills for the community around 2 million inhabitants. The project cost is $541,286. Let's help to change lives, helping our firefighters to guarantee your life, their life, and my life. Right now, a firefighter is missing their family while caring for yours. In the minute it took you to read this, firefighters all over the world are saving life and helping others. We are Rotary Club Breña at Inka Project Fair. Thank you.
The second project is for Rotary Club La Esperanza de Chaclacayo, named Best Teams for the Future. El segundo proyecto que les mostraremos es de Rotary Club La Esperanza de Chaclacayo, llamado Los Mejores Adolescentes del Futuro.
The Rotary Club La Esperanza de Chaclacayo, Lima, District 4455, following what our President of Rotary International, Sheikh Mehta, has suggested, we wish to work on the empowerment of our girls who live in the Cerro Huascata Human Settlement, Sector D. We want to promote healthy styles and habits of relationship and family upbringing between parents and children, as well as home nutritional counseling. Inform and sensitize adolescents about their rights and citizen duties, focus on good nutrition and especially on mental health. To ensure that adolescents have an opportunity to progress and get ahead, raising their self-esteem and providing them with a job, options to study, achieving their goals set for the good of their family and their country. And finally, provide adolescents with personal improvement tools to face the different stages that will arise in daily life in an adverse society. We invite you, join us and support us in this task that will benefit all of humanity. The low-income adolescents in our area will thank you for your support and confidence in their future.
The last but not least project that we are going to present is from Rotary Yanaguara, named Playing Lego. El último, pero no menos importante proyecto que les presentaremos es de Rotary Yanaguara, llamado Jugando con Lego. Hello, my name is Andy Leon. I'm from Rotary Club Yanaguara. I'm going to talk about a project named Playing Lego. The project is based about Lego Serious Play methodology that combine visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning styles into one uniquely creative and powerful approach. Everyone bonds and actively participate as they problem solve together, all while having fun in an environment that encourages free idea generation. This project will be for 5 public high schools in Lima, Ica, Cusco, Puno, Arequipa, Moquegua, and Tacna, which will work to improve the following skills: communication strategies, conflict management, creative problem resolving, and group decision making. In each city, 550 students will be trained. Each school will choose 30 students to attempt the online training. At the end of the project, 1,050 students will be trained with solving problem skills. We are looking for clubs to fund this project with $5,500 so we can play together and help young people develop their comprehension and problem-solving skills. You can contact me if you want to know more about this project in my email xandy1993x@gmail.com. Thank you. Mahatma Gandhi emphasized, you must be the change you wish to see the world. To end this day, we will see a presentation of the Peruvian cajon, cultural heritage of the nation. It's the most representative percussion instrument of criollo music and folklore for the region of Ica, whose versatility has made it an ambassador of Peruvian culture. Mahatma Gandhi enfatiza, tú debes ser el cambio. ¿Deseas ver el mundo? Para finalizar este día, veremos una presentación de cajón peruano, patrimonio cultural de la nación. Es el instrumento de percusión más representativo de la cultura criolla y del folclore de la región de Ica, cuya versatilidad lo ha convertido en un embajador de la cultura peruana. Thank you for joining us today, and do not forget that we will see you tomorrow at the same time. Tomorrow is dedicated to basic education and literacy. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy y no se olviden que nos veremos mañana a la misma hora. El día de mañana está dedicado a educación básica y alfabetización.